the ship meets your car, you know you can't go real far. Well, they could treat you real nice, or put a tracking device way down inside. I'm checking out invention at the UFO convention tonight. Planes above the hill to make it sunny, brought my money tonight. Little blind ladies, all that Dutchman strumming guitars, other instruction delight. A lot of wannabe truckers making eyes with starfish tonight. I got my hands on some sights, electric glasses with lights. They got me feeling deluxe for just a couple of bucks. Way down inside. I'm getting patterns from a tracker and it sounds like soul records to me. We're waving high from some gazebo, waving on the receiver to me. Getting patterns from a tracker sounds like soul records to me. Patterns from a tracker sounds that ridiculous to me. Sleep machine in your side tracks me. Things you've never seen. Parry the wind high, low. 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 Parry the wind high,
UFOs and alien abductions. I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Most people get a certain narrative when it comes to this topic because only one side of the story is given out by the news media. One angle, one slanted perspective, one biased interpretation of the events is given out. And so this narrative, this story, is swallowed uncritically as what's going on, and anybody who thinks about it differently is not taken seriously. UFOs are not only a real experience that people have, but they go back to the ancient world, actually. Um, there's plenty of academic evidence of this on the Wikipedia article called Unidentified Flying Object. In the ancient world, um, people studied the stars. Astronomers, astrologers, they studied the stars. They looked up, and they were interested in the movements of the celestial bodies, mainly for navigational purposes. That's what the book of Genesis says they were created for. The stars were created with constellational shapes so that people traveling by horse or by boat would be able to tell which direction they were going. It was a mapping system that God had created out into the sky. And so since ancient times, people were studying the sky. But here's the problem. When the fallen angels were kicked out of heaven, the book of Revelation says that they were cast down into the earth. And they can fly, right? Because although they are evil, in constitution, they're no different than angels. Beings of light, they can fly around. And the Bible says that they fly, that they fly, they glide, they float. And I wanted to talk about a verse about the principalities of the air. It's talking about demons, principalities and powers of the air. So we'll go there. It's in Ephesians, I believe. Let's see here. I'm having trouble bringing this up for some reason. I don't know why. I want to say it's Ephesians 6. Yeah, yes. Okay. We're almost there. Ephesians 6:12. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against the spiritual wickedness in high places. Now that high places reference is to the sky. And other translations will say, it won't say high places, it'll say the heavenly realm, or it will say the heavenlies, or it will say it's basically they're referring to the sky, the second heaven. Okay, so demons haunt houses, demon possess people, demons fly around in the sky. The Bible has room for that. So they were cast out of heaven, and so now where are they? They're everywhere except heaven. They are everywhere except heaven. Right? And they're spirits. They float around. They're ghostly, evil spirits that hate God and his kingdom. And they've been here for 6,000 years because they've got no other place to go. And this is what they do. So they fly around. They haunt the earth. They tempt people. They make people insane. They cause sickness and distress. They manifest as gods and goddesses and seduce and allure people into false deceptions and supernatural ideologies that are false and away from God's kingdom. Practically every world religion with supernatural flavor in it has demonic origin. Everything in Hinduism or Taoism, anything in the realm of ancient pagan mythologies, all of those world religions that had occult aspects, they come from these powers, these principalities of powers in Ephesians 6:12, the demons that fly around. All of the pyramids of the past were human sacrifices. The reason why they went up like that, the ziggurats, was because they believed that those stronger high-level demons were up there in the sky, and that if they made sacrifices at the top of the pyramid or whatever, or at the top of the volcano, there would be less of a traveling distance between the sky and the priests, and they could come down and manifest and appear to them. And it wasn't just that they were excited to see them. it was also because they feared their wrath. And so the sacrifices would be made. Close Encounters of the Third Kind was made by Steven Spielberg in 1977 with the help of an American government UFO researcher named J. Allen Hynek. And they have a scene at the end where they go to the top of a mountain called Devil's Tower. And the UFO descends upon Devil's Tower, and out come the demons, I mean the aliens. Out they come. That's ancient. That whole concept is ancient. You go to the top of the mountain, you go to the top of the volcano, you go to the top of the pyramid, and then come descend the gods. And so this has been called ancient astronaut theory, but I think it's just about as sound as can be. This is where paganism comes from. It's always been related to this idea. You go to the top of a ziggurat or a mountain or a pyramid to worship the gods, make sacrifices. The priests make sacrifices, and then down comes the UFO, and the gods come out of it. And there is so much stuff in the ancient history books about this. Herodotus, Livy, you name it. They're all there. Like, this is how these mythological religions were formed. They really believed in the existence of these gods. And that's why they killed their own people for them. They always took the most beautiful woman from their people and killed them for them. That was pre-scientific. That was pre-atheistic. That was pre-communist, right? That was an age of occultism. There's a website called alienintrusion.com. Alien Intrusion, Unmasking a Deception. I highly recommend watching it. It's by a creationist ministry called Creation Ministries International. I've always respected them as being sound, biblical, and good with science. They explain it the way I just did. That the alien phenomenon is basically ancient astronaut theory mixed with Bible demonology. These things have been going on since the ancient world. The Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel is mentioned in the writings of Josephus, and it says that Herodotus, it was a tourism site in the time of ancient Greece, and Herodotus was an ancient Greek writer. He went to the Tower of Babel for a tourism expedition on his own. At that time, the Tower of Babel was still in full shape. It wasn't just the base that it is today out in Babylon. And so it was still fully, it was like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It was still in fully shaped. And so Herodotus went to the top of the Tower of Babel, and the tour guide at the top explained to him what the Tower of Babel used to be used for. 2,000 years before him. He says that there used to be a bedroom at the top of the Tower of Babel, and that a virgin from the people of Babylonia would be put up at the top, and the god would come down, would descend from the sky and appear in the bedroom at the top of the Tower of Babel and impregnate the virgin. And that's what the Tower of Babel was for. That's what the tour guide told Herodotus. This is written down in the writings of Josephus. Josephus is considered one of the top Bible background historical books for Bible scholars and theologians. It's the same thing. It's ancient astronaut theory. It's highly corroborated throughout practically every, ancient ancient history writing. So in more modern times, what we ended up seeing, though, is a narrative changing. The experiences continued, but they changed shape, and the narrative changed. And so people continued to believe that, the phenomenons continued to happen. People continued to have experiences of a similar nature, but the narrative changed, the philosophy changed. Because demons are real. They've always been real. For 6,000 years they've been real. But the ultimate purpose of demons is not to get people to worship them. The ultimate purpose of demons is to get them to not be loyal to Jesus. That's all they care about. They're against Jesus and his kingdom. And so people started losing their faith in the supernatural and in the occult during the Renaissance, during the 1500s. Okay? There was always a smaller group of people that continued to believe in it, but most people, as the age of science and science frenzy, kind of took popular opinion and popular conversation by storm, people turned away from the occult and pagan priests and making sacrifices to the gods at the top of man-made or nature-made buildings or pyramids and mountains. They would stop doing that and start doing laboratory experiments. That was, laboratory experiments was the new thing. So 1500s and 1600s saw the Renaissance. People just simply changed their attitude about everything, and unless it could be repeatably observed, they would not call it truth. That's essentially what science means. You have to be able to control everything, right? You can't wait for some spontaneous occurrence to occur to call it truth. It has to be a repeatable, observable thing that you can recreate in a lab. That's the scientific mentalities, right? That's called the scientific method, scientific observation. Okay, and so when that attitude started coming in through the Renaissance, the spontaneous supernatural occurrences, right, of sky phenomenon got the attitude, the sentiment changed towards those things. The general sentiment is that they're not real, that you must be crazy if you saw something like that. But the experiences continued all through the 1500s and 1600s. There was a thing in 1561 in Germany. It was called the celestial phenomenon over Basel or Nuremberg. And it was this weird thing that all these bizarre lights just started manifesting, kind of like orb lights, just started manifesting all over the town. So this stuff has been going on for a really long time. But it gets the narrative, the way they talk about it has changed. The words that they use change. The interpretations, the philosophies, the ideologies have changed, but the experiences continue. Not only close encounters of a third kind where we're seeing light phenomenons in the sky, but also sometimes even of a first kind where people are having face-to-face encounters with monsters. And that eventually led to science fiction literature. Believe it or not. H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. In 1903, War of the Worlds came out. It came out a little before that, but the illustrated version came out. And what comes out of one of the flying saucers in his book? A tentacle Martian monster with eyes that looks like an octopus. Okay. a demonic, menacing creature from the skies in a spaceship. Why? Because this is what they had all been thinking for centuries, right? These things are demons, okay? And so that it wasn't hard to build that case. It wasn't hard to write that story. It wasn't hard to make everybody believe it, because these experiences go back so far. They go back to the beginning of time, right? They start off being called gods and goddesses at the tops of, coming from the sky down to the top of a plateau or a mountain, or a Mount Olympus, or a Devil's Tower, or a pyramid recreated by men who have been told, Aztec Maya pyramids, and have been told to recreate them for the gods, okay, so that they wouldn't have to travel down so much. They could have, a shortcut to the skies, right? And human sacrifices would be, at the top, right? This culture of encountering the gods at the top of a mountain was well established. So when God appeared to Moses at the top of Mount Sinai, everybody was kind of like, the Jews had built the pyramids. Josephus says that they built the pyramids in Egypt. So they knew what the pyramids were for. And now God has his own pyramid out in the desert called Mount Sinai, and he comes down and he appears at the top with Moses. So the whole concept of going to the top of a mountain, whether it's Mount Olympus or a pyramid or the Aztec Maya down in Mexico, the whole concept of going to the top of a pyramid to encounter the gods, it was well established by these ancient UFO. They were the gods. That's where the mythological religions was. It was not made up. This is narrative we're getting from naturalistic scientists who have a specific communist agenda to make us think about these things their way. Okay, they were not made up religions. These religions of Egypt, of Mexico, of ancient Greece. They came from the mountain gods. They came from the skies. They were occult religions. People don't just flippantly kill virgins because they made up a religion, okay? These people really did have encounters with evil spirits coming down from the skies. And but like I said, as we entered through the Renaissance, the Age of Enlightenment, and an age of science, and popular sentiment in books and literature, and attitudes about the supernatural changed, right? The experiences didn't stop. The interpretations changed. That's what happened. And so as the interpretations changed, we came into the 1800s, people continued to see them again. They saw them in the 1800s. They were called mystery airships back then. They were called mystery airships. And so they would change shape into something more akin to a device created by people in the 19th century. Mystery airships. When we came to the time of World War II, they were called Foo Fighters. They took on the shape of flying lights, and they would distract people who were flying, the air pilots. And so since the time of Hitler, alien flying phenomenon have been linked up with the Air Force, because the Air Force is flying around in the sky, which is where the demons are at and have always been. The principalities and powers of the air in Ephesians 6:12. So Air Force pilots and Air Force bases usually have the most UFO manifestations. And they're almost always lights. It's rare that you ever hear of physical things being associated with them. It's not to say that physical things don't appear from these weird things. Demons can teleport physical things and form things. But we have to remember they are spirits. So most of the time when they do manifest, they're manifesting as lights. Just like the Bible says that Satan masquerades as an angel of light, right? So that's what they are. They're fallen angels. They're fallen beings of light. And most of the time that's how they appear, as bizarre light phenomenons in the sky. I used to, about 20 years ago, Unsolved Mysteries DVDs came out at Walmart, and they had the UFO version of it, and I used to watch those all the time. But I think I have a pretty good understanding of it. I've seen every X-Files episode too, even though that's fictional. A lot of that's based off of J. Allen Hynek and stuff. So this stuff's demonic, right? There's no question in my mind. Like, it's usually almost always non-physical, and whenever people have close encounters with a being, it's always negative, almost always demonic, menacing, horrible experience experienced in the dream or in the vision or on the psychic realm, or it's apparently benevolent but turns you away from Bible-believing Christianity. And I've even heard that some people call on, they say, Jesus, 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 and the alien will leave. Why? Because they cast out the demon. They cast out the alien by calling on Jesus. So this is a deliverance issue. Genesis 6:4 is probably the closest reference to it other than Ephesians 6:12. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. So that's probably talking about that Tower of Babel thing, like where the God would come down and impregnate the virgin. The sons of God came in to the daughters of men. In other words, sons of God back then was another reference to angels or angelic beings, fallen, in this case, fallen ones. All right. What does it say in the KJV on Genesis 6:4? There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Now, in the book of Job, this expression "sons of God" is interchangeable with angels. So just to make sure, I'm not, throwing my own interpretation on the expression "sons of God," I'll prove that was another expression for angelic beings, or in this case, fallen angelic beings. Okay. So you know that I'm not just, toying around with my own subjective interpretation. It says in Job 38, verse 7, the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Where it's talking about the creation of the world and all the angels were praising God that he had created the world, right? Morning stars, sons of God. Angels are called stars because they're beings of light. In the book of Revelation, Jesus holds the 7 stars in his hand, which are the angels of the churches. Okay, so just to give you some context, like, demons are basically fallen angels. In terms of types of beings, they're beings of light. So therefore, every single UFO manifestation is going to have phanerosis associated with it. In other words, manifestation. You might be familiar with 1 Corinthians 12, 8 to 10, where it says that the manifestations of the Holy Spirit are words of knowledge, etc., etc. Manifestation, phanerosis, means turning a flashlight on or revealing something that wasn't there before. It comes out of thin air. So this is essentially what they are. They're beings of light, and their ultimate objective is to deceive people and to distract people. Will-o'-the-wisp was an expression that was used in English folklore some time back for light orbs that would appear in the middle of the night and distract people who are walking in the night to make them try to walk off of a cliff or into a swamp and drown or get hurt or something. They're malevolent beings. They could be called a fairy, they could be called a will-o'-the-wisp, but essentially they're just malevolent fallen angels that have nothing better to do than to kill, steal, and destroy people's faith and their lives. And so today's narrative is that the government has been covering this up. Well, yeah, we live in a scientific culture that's based on naturalism, okay? And we also live in a culture in which the government, today's government, right, is not sacrificing virgins at the top of mountains like Egypt's government was, or ancient Mexico's government was, or ancient Greece's government was. We don't, where's the mount? I mean, if that'd be the case, we'd be sacrificing virgins at the top of Mount Rushmore. We don't do that. So in an age of which United States government exists, right, we have no place to sacrifice virgins to these gods. That's ultimately what they would want if we were following the ancient mythology model. But since we're not, the demons are trying to do the best they can to distract people away from the gospel and the Bible. And they're doing a darn good job at it. So, everybody's thinking about whatever National Geographic says. They're thinking about, these are, what these are? This is Star Trek. Yeah, that's right. Star Trek. No, this is not Star Trek. Okay? This is what I've been saying all along. It's just because we live in an age of anti-supernaturalism, people are biased against thinking about these things as demons. Even if somebody does come up, you're like, yeah, whatever, you're crazy. The real scientists say da-da-da-da-da. In other words, this is Janus and Jambres. National Geographic is today's Janus and Jambres. Who's that? Those were Pharaoh's sorcerers that hardened Pharaoh's heart against Moses and God. Those were the ones that counterfeited Moses' miracles. Those are ones that explained to the government that we got this. We got this. This isn't the way the man of God is saying it. It's something else. Don't be deceived by Janus and Jambres. Don't let your heart be hardened like Pharaoh was. Believe the people of God. God always sees to it that they're right.